the news. The news is something that is very depressing and something you frankly do not need in your life. Now, what brings this on is earlier today, I was on a leisurely walk, just walking my dog because apparently she was having some tummy issues. So my mom asked me if I could go walk my dog, and I was like, sure. So I'm taking her on a walk, and I'm already a little tired because I had a very eventful morning. And and during that walk, I ran into one of my neighbors, older woman that I typically talk to. I say hi to her, listen to her, because that's the best thing we can really do for our elders is listen. And she's cool. And amongst that talk, I somehow politics ended up coming up, and it's because I mentioned a certain place, and she was just like, oh no, it's bad. And then she starts talking about politics, like how she's a diehard Democrat, and also that, like, Republicans are bad, and that these are like, why, talking about staying caught up with all the news and everything going on in the world. And I'm just like, I tell her respectfully, no, like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't find purpose in that. If I need to know, it will reach me. But if otherwise, no. Because I did that before, and the amount of stress it gave me, the amount of paranoia I had, I didn't need that. Now, it is good to be aware, but it is not good to dwell. I will say that. If you're aware of it, then you start to also, that can inspire action. I like to have this, I have this deep-rooted thought in me that we're gonna face a world of like complete war and ruin sometime in the next 10 years. So what I do, I train so I can be prepared for that. And that's part of my motivation. And then that's the thing, she's trying to tell me, like, if you're not staying caught up, then what are you gonna do when all these people, like, when there's war in the US and you get drafted to it. And I'm just like, I'm not telling her that this is what goes on in my head. I'm like, I'm already prepared, but I'm just like, I will worry about it when it happens. Until that day comes, I'm going to keep working hard in my endeavors. And that's something here too. If it's important news, it's going to reach you. Trust me, because I don't look at the news. I do look at social media here, but I don't really keep up with news. But then I do know, because it's important to people that I know that do keep up with it, end up sharing it. They find, and so I find out, such as the war in Israel, between Palestine and Israel, and how it's now also a matter of Jews, and like Jews versus Muslims. And it's tragic, really, because I know the death count is high, it's up there. And my prayers go out to all who have been affected by the war, all lost and injured. And it's horrible. But on that note, it's also just something that I like, why am I going to keep up with that? Just because in this matter, what can I really do? I can talk about it, sure. I can look at all the statistics and just, unnecessarily stress myself out. But the point of the matter is, what am I going to do? You think I'm going to go fly over there and just stop the war? And I'd be like, stop. Like, I'm human, my friend. I can't do that. I don't have that kind of power and authority. Trust me, if I could do that, then awesome. Let me be like the god of war, but the one that stops it. Beautiful. But that's not me. That's not me. I'm human. I have limitations. And in this particular regard, I don't have the resources to do anything. I don't have the means to do anything. All I can really do is pray and send my love for those that are suffering. And of course, if there is some way I could provide refuge, then perhaps I would. But that's not in my power to do so, because I'm in the United States. All I could really do, is definitely say I'm not for violence on any side. In that particular matter, Jewish, Muslim, doesn't matter. I'm not for Israel, I'm not for Palestine. Truthfully, I don't know the context of the war. All I know is that there are innocent people who have died. And that is what I do not like. That is the issue there. The war in and of itself, any war really is senseless at the core of it. So, because the real wisdom is in knowing that there is no real need for war. But as we know, history repeats itself. And there's always some fool that wants power and wants to, is a tyrant and wants to have that, exert that, and also oppress a certain race or creed or whatever. And that's exactly what's happening now. And again, my hearts go out to them. And if it's in my immediate vicinity to act, or if there's some way I can act, I mean, this in and of itself, I suppose, is an action of saying that I condemn the war in general. I am not for either side, but I am definitely not for it because innocents are dying. And that's not okay. But I don't want this to be too much about that, because the point of this is also being so caught up with the news brings about this level of stress and paranoia that is so unnecessary in your life, my friend. I want to take into account a friend of mine who may very well be watching this video, and whom I have told that the being so caught up with the current affairs of the world, it's not useful. It just gives, like, I know how he is, and he'll start stressing out about it to such a degree where it's like, hermano Cristo, relax. You're right. A lot of these things you talk about, Hollywood being corrupt, the elites of the power, all these things are not wrong. But what can you do about it? What are you going to do about it? You can't. You don't have that kind of power. And when you do start to get that kind of power, you have to be careful too, because then, they'll be paying attention to you. So a point of that just simply being, you get to that point and then it's just like, you're not thinking rationally, you're thinking irrationally. And that helps no one, especially not you. Because then you worried about that too much, you get nothing done. And then you also, that energy is very difficult to be around. As much as, you may be loved, or as much as you may love someone that is like that, when they start to do that too much, now it's just a matter of, honestly, let's not talk about it, or it's even like, get the fuck away from me. Like, I choose not to associate with that kind of behavior again, because what is the point? Now, I don't mind, like, going into a discussion of it, but when it gets to that point where it's every conversation, shut up, bro. Like, respectfully, shut up. It's always the same conclusion. It's always the same issue. Like, it's always a different particular situation, but the problem and the issue and the result and also, it's all the same at the end of the day. It's such a repetitive thing, and it's just like, you got better things to worry about. Particularly you watching this video. You want something better with your life. So in order to get something better with your life, don't worry about the things that are out of your control, and worry about the things that are in your control. Worry about what you can do in this present moment to grow yourself as a man, to grow yourself as a human being. Go read a book that will increase your knowledge of a particular area, be it psychology, nutrition, better, how to actually exercise better, philosophy. Go read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, or just something of value, something that actually grows you. Go learn a skill that will increase your finances. Work more on your business. Put more hours in at your job. Go study more. Whatever. Do these things that actually do grow you and make you a better human being and give you more control in yourself. Because worrying so much about these external factors we don't have control over isn't going to do you much good. All that to simply say, you got this. Relax. Take a step away from all that noise, and you're going to see just how peaceful it all is. And yes, be aware, continue to train, but don't give it much more thought than necessary. Acknowledge it and move on. You know, it's much like one time when I was hiking and I noticed this big ass tree that had just fallen over, and it created this huge little divot that you had just had to be careful navigating. You know what we did? We walked past, we were walking, we noticed it, we acknowledged it, and we moved on. We treaded carefully because we knew we had to, because if we didn't, we'd trip and fall. However, we did not give it much more attention than necessary. Why? Because it wasn't important. It wasn't important. The only thing it was important for was to be aware of it, to avoid the problem, and move on. In this case, avoid the problem and move on. That's all. It starts and ends right there. And the second it becomes something you need to directly address, this is where all that building comes in handy. You build so much within your life that when you actually have to deal with these issues, you're ready. And you're not just building, and like in that building, it's not just consuming content, you are also taking meaningful action. That is the key here. That is the key to being more stress-free, so that it actually all matters and counts for something. Anyhow, that is the wisdom I want to impart with you today. That is what I have learned and what came to mind when this old sweet lady started talking to me. Now, I still think she's a very cool lady. It's just that instant, that in and of itself was just like, bro, come on now. I'm not trying to talk about that. Tell me about your day. Tell me about your grandsons. How was your dog? All that. But anyhow, thank you for listening to me. Much love. God bless. Stay safe. Mwah.